Hello everybody and welcome to Avian Specialty Inc.'s Facebook Live event. Today we're going to cover best practices in the ink room. Let's start with the basic tools. Obviously need jars and lids, rags to be handy anytime you have a mess, some kind of cleaner. In this case we're doing water-based and we'll need water, or we can use some solvent for the other. Obviously some mixing components, a marker to be able to mark your containers with the correct Pantone, some kind of stir stick or spatula. This I'll explain later. And gloves to keep your hands clean. You don't want to make a mess. Other things you want handy, obviously, is a empty container to help tear out your scale, a calculator for additives or catalysts, and then it's good to have cards. I'll show you how to use those later. And then, of course, the mixing software. So let's get started. Take your empty, put it on the scale, tear it out, or zero it out. And then you start with your components. In this case, we're doing some water base. Here's the base. Measuring it out as close as we can. A good scale is the most important tool in the ink room. Purchase a high quality scale that will measure 1/10 of a gram and can maintain a steady measurement. For low viscosity pigments, in this case a water-based pigment, it's highly recommended to use some kind of squeeze bottle, ketchup bottle, to help you control the steady flow of pigment as you're adding it. You will note as I'm following the formula, between pigments, I will tear out the scale again so I can follow the exact measurement. And toward the end of the pour, I'll separate the pigments in the bucket. I purposely overshot on this particular mix so I can show you how to use this tool here. You can actually pull out a pigment. You can also do this by using paper towels or something like that to kind of soak the pigment back up and get back to the measurement you need. Those techniques only work with the more fluid pigment. It would not work with a finished ink system. You simply mix, stir completely before you check the color, and make sure you're getting all the corners of the container. I like using a clear container when I'm mixing so I can see every bit of it. And there you go. It's a nice color. The next demonstration is how to handle a finished ink system. Some of these pigments are thicker, harder to handle. So obviously you go through your measurement process. And when you get down to the last bit of the measurement, I like to use the card. So I'll get a little extra ink on my spatula knowing that I'll have enough, and I would just drop in bits to the correct measurement. That way you have total control and you can hit the numbers. Again, we're just following the recipe out of the software and doing the second component, which is also kind of a thick mixing color. And again, I get down to 80% of the mix and I'll scoop in the bits that I need to get within the tolerance set in the formula on the software. For plastisol, you're going to need a different kind of solvent cleaner. Cleans very well off the metal. It's good to have like a stainless steel counter if you can afford one, or some kind of coating where you can easily wipe off the ink. Again, we're just stirring it completely, getting all the edges until it's mixed completely. At this point, it's very important to label the bucket. Maybe put the Pantone number, maybe put the type of ink it is, so you can keep up with it while you're working. Another great feature of a good scale is being able to link it into your software. Here we have a cable that goes right into the computer, so it can track your mixing. Here we picked a formula, the mixing system we want to use in the software. Bring up the color we're mixing. And then we simply select it, have the formula ready, and since the scale is linked into the software, when we go to blend, the scale actually shows up on the screen and you're able to control it from there. Go to the first component, I'll hit start, you can tear out the bucket and then you start adding. As you can see, there's a nice progress bar that follows you, and as you add, you can see the progress bar go toward 100%. Once it gets in tolerance, they'll give you the green light that you're 100%. So the next important thing is once you mix your color, you want to check it for accuracy. The best way to do this is to actually print the ink through like a 160 screen directly onto a white garment and then fully cure the color. This is the best way to check color, as it may shift when it actually cures, and that's how the formula was created, to match as a cure. Now to hit Pantone, it's very important to know your light source. Here's an example of a metameric color. As I walk through my shop, you can see the color changing. With daylight 65, it's going to match. As you go under different light sources, it doesn't match. So it's very important to ask your customer, what light source do they want to match with? So you can see a slight difference there as I change the colors of the light. You see a major shift. One more. And these are on the Pantone book, so you're able to demonstrate that for your customer. Another very important thing is get a full mix. Here's a good ink practice if you have particularly old ink, or maybe it was got really cold during the winter temperatures. Do a slight stir on the surface and create a shearing action or a mixing action to warm up the ink. It is not advised to warm up your ink under a flash unit or under the dryer or sitting on top of the dryer. The shearing action will do the trick without affecting your ink and creating a pre-gel. Very nice and creamy. So let's move from the must-haves to the nice-to-have. Here's a Centrifuge mixer, fantastic for ink. You can see that this ink itself is pretty stiff, probably sat in the shelf for a while. This actually creates a shear action like you did with the drill, only it's a little bit more forceful, and it can bring the ink back to a nice shear, nice printing flow. Very creamy and ready to go. You don't have to warm it up with heat. Here's another form of shaker that's been out in the marketplace for a while. It works much like the shakers you may see at a home improvement store to mix paint. It's just a pure agitator. Simply place the bucket in, lock the door, and when you press start, the clamp comes down, holds the bucket in place, and it'll start shaking. Creates a complete mix of the ink. This tool is used for mixing pigments and also warming up the ink. Check with your Avient rep for other advanced tools for the ink room, such as the DM4 for automatic dispensing. Thank you for joining us this week. Hope to see you next week on Avient Specialty Inks Facebook Live events. Thank you.